I know you are, but what am I?
So that's my horrible impression of Pee Wee Herman. Back in the 80s when I was a kid, he had his own Saturday morning show. He had some movies, and he definitely had some catchphrases. One of those being, I know you are, but what am I? And this is very important to the culture of my channel, which is about hair loss and overcoming it psychologically. I want to demonstrate this with a comment section on a video I made called I don't deserve a hair transplant, I'm not worthy, balding is my fate. So one of the first comments that popped up was this, quote, didn't know you cared so much about what other men would think about a hair transplant if you got it. Saying that you're not special enough just sounds like you have low self-esteem and that you really care about what other guys think of you, end quote. Shortly after that, to my defense, Craig Westenberg, I've always loved you, man. You've always been there for me. You've been my advocate. Because sometimes people need to hear it from somebody else and not just me. Here's what Craig said to rebuttal that, which got 3 thumbs up. Quote, I don't really understand why people think that you're obsessed and somehow ashamed of going bald. It's obvious you're making these videos for an audience to help others. It'd be unusual for someone who is ashamed of going bald to upload a public journal of the process for the world to see, end quote. Exactly. But see, let's apply that principle of I know you are, but what am I? In the first comment that I read, you can see it's very obvious that that person was insecure and they were reflecting that back on me. The next person is a confident person and they totally get where I'm coming from. And yeah, what's funny is I've never thought about that before, amazingly. I've never thought about the concept of, for all the people who think that I'm insecure about hair loss, why in the world would I make 2 or 3 videos every day about hair loss if I was insecure about it? It's a reflection of those people who are insecure. You know, it's like this, and here's the difference between me as a host and so many people who are insecure and watching my videos, is this. Here's how I live my life. I go through my life every day thinking, what can I learn new today? What am I wrong about? What do I need to change today? Whereas insecure people, here's what they think. Well, don't you think if I were wrong, I'd know it? That's the difference. Another way of looking at it is this. I've heard it said that every new person you meet, that you encounter in your life, is a new opportunity to learn something about yourself. You see, insecure people watch my channel and they only see things through their own insecurity and think, he must be just like me. He's as insecure as I am. But someone who's not in that toxic place would say, oh, yeah, he's not obsessed with hair loss. He is actually here to help me. It's so funny how that works. So again, going back to Pee Wee Herman, I know you are, but what am I? See, I've said before, one of my newer catchphrases is I say, you reduce me to hair loss and I reduce you to psychology. And this comment exchange is exactly proof of that. The person who was insecure reduced me to hair loss, assuming that I was insecure as they are. And here I am reducing them to psychology because I know that what they're saying is coming from a place of insecurity. And then Craig comes along and says, but if he was insecure, why would he make so many videos about that? And I agree. If I truly was insecure about hair loss, I would be psychologically really a messed up person, because to talk about it that much from a place of insecurity, of course I'd be a mental case. I would need help. Instead, I'm the one giving help because, again, I'm here to help people psychologically. So just keep that in mind and kind of place yourself on that. I've talked about the hair loss journey, how when you finally graduate from hair loss grief, you get to the point where I am, where what you spend your time doing is helping other people. Instead of being worried or insecure or depressed about it and all those things, you're helping other people. That's where I am on the journey. It looks like Craig is there as well. I know lots of Sylvan Strength is another one who I definitely know has got to that place, and I so appreciate that. And it doesn't even matter how much hair you have or have not lost. The fact that you can get to the point where you're here to psychologically encourage and help other people, that's the place you want to be, and that's where I want everyone to be. But evaluate yourself, as I do daily. Evaluate yourself and think, am I, because, and I've said it before too, I understand that for some of you, I'm the only father you've ever had. I know that can sound like I am so full of myself, but I definitely think that so many of you don't have a positive father figure, a positive role model in your life that's a male. So when you actually are exposed to someone who is that for you, you rebel against it because you don't know what to do with it. You don't know how to deal with someone who's calling you out on something, who actually is wanting to help you. But I understand that many of my subscribers will never get to that point. They'll continue watching, but they'll be staying in that toxic cycle, and they won't face the challenge of what it takes to get out of that. You know, as far as how I feel about hair transplants, what have I always said? Robert, you've been watching forever. Max, you've been watching forever, for years. What have I always said about hair transplants? While I personally would never get one, I understand that some people will never be able to overcome their hair loss psychologically, and that's what those people need. So for those people, I definitely endorse a hair transplant. For others, I definitely endorse them taking Propecia or Rogaine or whatever it is. Because if you can't overcome the problem from within, or you're not interested in doing that, then you need to figure out some other way to be confident. But it ultimately comes down to this though. Why is it that certain people can overcome it from within and others cannot? Why is that? Well, do I still have the note from the video I made an hour ago? I still think the difference between people who can overcome their hair loss psychologically versus those who can't, I think it comes down to one, emotional control over themselves, not letting other people control them, but taking responsibility for their own emotions, not getting worried about things they can't control, but instead focus on what they can. It's people who have a positive male role model and they take advantage of having access to that relationship, even if it's a virtual one. And then lastly, not exposing themselves to pornography because it psychologically poisons you. From a non-religious, non-moral viewpoint, I'm saying that. I'm just talking about psychology. That's what this whole video is about. See, again, you reduce me to hair loss. And again, I'm reducing you to psychology. I'm always looking at this from a psychological point of view because that's the real cure to this fake disease that so many people buy into. And then I'm here, I'm the only one on YouTube with this many subscribers trying to get to the real root of the issue. And the small minority of people who actually follow me that far are going to find peace. They're going to graduate like Sylvan Strength. But I think sadly the majority of my subscribers aren't willing to go there with me. But you could join me. You could take the road less traveled. You can make some unpopular decisions. You could take control of your own life. Nick, you're starting to sound like a motivational speaker. Exactly, that's what I am.